everybody. Welcome back to Grid Penalty, the Formula One podcast for everybody. We have a very special episode for you today. We got Zack Klapman as our guest. And with me, as always, is my good pal and always right-hand man, Jeff Tice. Jeff, how are you, buddy? I'm feeling emotionally, it's been one of those days where it started off with me yelling at Amazon. So I think we both know how that goes for old Brent Gill here. But so far, so good. I'm excited to have our guest on from the Smoking Tire and from Autotopia as well. From Autopia, Zack Klapman. Zack, welcome to the show, man.
How you doing? Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Jeff, thanks for drawing me like one of your French girls, I assume. That's what have you been drawing all day?
Yeah, Jeff, what have you been working on?
Very cool. Very cool. I have an appreciation for the difficulty of drawing and art and everything, so that's awesome.
It's definitely, in fact, majority of the things on my wall here, Jeff has made as well. These four over here. So now, when I had hair, yeah, like this one right there. That's a lot of hair, Brent Gill, right there. Followed by 5 years ago, no hair, Brent Gill.
It's like the water line of Lake Mead. We're all just watching it kind of change.
Bodies in the form of hair follicles just exposing themselves and dying. Now Zack runs is co-host on a phenomenal podcast called The Smoking Tire. It's been around for quite a long time. You also contribute to Road and Track as well. Mm-hmm. And I just saw this today. You just started working with Autopia as well.
The Autopian, yeah.
Autopian, excuse me. What is that? That's car reviews and it's text. It's not videos. Is that right?
It's going to be both. So Autopian was
cool.
launched by Jason Torchinsky and David Tracy, who both got really well known on Jalopnik. I mean, I think Jason was there for like 16 years, and Jason loves weird technology and strange builds. He bought the cheapest car you could buy on Alibaba. And he's just like a great tinkerer and also a graphic artist. And so he writes really interesting, insightful stuff that's also really, really funny. David Tracy is like a glutton for broken things. So he'll find a Jeep that was left in the woods 50 years ago that has a tree growing through it, and he'll be like, I can get that running. And then he will. Now, he might live in the woods for a week and get like crazy spider bites, but he will get the thing going. So he has some amazing stories. So they started this site together that just kind of focuses on those things of strange technology, a little bit of auto news, and these gluttonous, horrible repairs that David likes to do. But they wanted to have a video component with slightly more modern cars, but just kind of cool sports cars and interesting things. And so very kindly they asked if I would do it, and we're going to drive cars from Bo Bachman's collection, because Bo is also one of the founders of the Autopian and the money behind it. And he has the coolest, most eclectic collection of cars, like weird, pink 4GT, and then strange reverse, like a wheelie truck from the hot rod days from the 60s that drives backwards and all that stuff. So, yeah, I asked if I could drive that one. That was the one car he said no. He's like, that's too dangerous. He said, that's too dangerous. So maybe season 2. Yeah, so I'll be doing videos for them this coming year, which I'm really stoked about.
Sweet. Nice. And now, Zack and I met, which I know that everyone on the podcast has heard endlessly about my Z3, but they made a post about wanting to review or to bringing back customer car, like fan cars and everything, and I submitted the LSZ3, and you dubbed it the German Cobra, which I absolutely love that, and I'm like, yeah, I think that is what it is. It's the German Cobra, and I told you I was going to sell it, and I've gone back and forth on this about 97 times, and it's staying in my garage for sure. Yeah, it's for sure staying in the garage. But which I have to say, by the way, that review, I appreciated how nice you were on the car because of, I feel like there were things, I bet you have a lot of people that are like, I'm scared you're going to hate my car.
Yeah.
And and I would never want to have that said to my face that you hate it. So I always appreciated that because I felt like my transmission could have used some work, as I know now after I've replaced it. It did. But,
Your car was imperfect, but most cars are. And I think, like, my job, what I like to do with fan cars is just try to experience what they experience. If I can figure out why they love or why they built the thing they built, then that's great. And if they ask, how do I feel about how it handles or these aspects, I'm happy to give feedback on my experience. But it's very rare that I would say, like, I don't like this thing, because the person who built it or bought it, like, they like it, and that's what's important. It's not an OEM that's presenting this, and I can just kind of say what I want about it. It's like, this is your dream. It's not my dream, so who am I to crap on your dream? So, plus that thing was just a silly, dangerous riot. It felt so small and so fast and so loud. It was a good time.
Absolutely, dude. I went to Angela's Crest a couple days ago to go do some donuts in that huge lot up there. There's a massive mountain of sand there now, and there's a bunch of like work trucks, and I don't know what they're doing with it, but it really cramped my style for trying to make some dumb videos.
Well, the good news is there's a lot of turnouts on Angela's Crest.
That's true.
But the upper section is closed right now because of all of what the rain did to the roads, so you might have to wait a few months.
Yeah, which it's only going to be that. I don't know. I'm definitely going to bring the new E46 up there at some point, but I don't want like a bunch of rock. I'm so scared for my first paint chip on this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the paint is so cherry that I'm like, I just, it's going to hurt my heart until I get the second one, and then I'll be like, okay, we're fine.
The trick, well, my friend Mike Musto, who reviews muscle cars, what he does when he buys a new car is he scratches it intentionally somewhere that no one would ever see, like underneath the bumper. And he does it himself, and for him, mentally, he goes, now it's been scratched. It's not perfect. I can just live with it. So
that's not a bad idea. It's like throwing an ice cube on the ground when you're pulling ice out of your freezer. You know you're going to drop one. So it's just drop one now and get it over with, and then we're good to go.
Never heard that, but it makes sense.
So, Zach, you are originally from Colorado.
Wrong. I'm originally from Santa Cruz. And then I lived in Colorado for 9 years, so I'm kind of like, a third of my life was there.
Okay, gotcha. And then you moved out to LA, and you've been here ever since.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have recently been watching you post a lot of F1 stuff. And just to start this off, did you come into Formula One before Drive to Survive, or did you come after Drive to Survive?
Mostly after. I was a light fan of it before, and I respected it, but I didn't watch it very often because, one, it was really hard to watch. I mean, it was, for a long time you had to catch it 4:00 in the morning on this channel, and I didn't have cable, and so how would I get it? But I watched the documentary Senna multiple times. We had the director on our podcast. So I respect the sport. But because it was somewhat inaccessible, like logistically, couple that with the fact that it was just hard to relate to the cars because they look like spaceships, and it just didn't hook me, and I just didn't have the bandwidth to pay attention to a new thing for the last 10 years. But Drive to Survive did a great job of almost slowing it down figuratively and going, here's each driver, here's each team, here are their struggles and goals. And you can kind of connect with the humans behind the teams, both the drivers and the crew, and the team principals, and that allowed me to it was almost like taking a summer course in something where it's like here's everything you need to know, and now you can kind of be invested going forward. And I think that worked for a lot of people. And if we can connect with the stories, we're going to be more invested in the sport, the activity, the spectacle, whatever it is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's exactly. I feel like it dramatized it a bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it made it so your girlfriend could sit there and watch it, And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it's clearly a good thing for Liberty Media, but it seems like it seems like that was a good move on their part.
Well, I think more race fans is better in general. And to your exact point, I had watched all of season 1, 2, 3, and then my now fiance was like, hanging out here, something, I forget. It was just like not a great day, whatever was going on. And I was like, you know what, just watch this show. Try this show. Like, she does not into racing, but she's kind of into cars. She watched one episode, and she's like, can we watch 2 more? And we watched like 3 or 4 episodes that night, and then she waits for every season to come out because it's great storytelling, and it's, there's human struggle, and it's very challenging, and she knows how difficult driving at that level would be. So she was a non-race fan turned into a race fan. And yes, it's good for Liberty Media, but it's also good for F1, and I think we're seeing the benefit in motorsports as a whole because you've got, like, everyone's paying more attention to NASCAR, everyone's paying more attention to IndyCar. IndyCar has rolled out, IMSA. IMSA rolled out a YouTube doc series because they saw the benefit of Drive to Survive. So I think, like, as far as for motorsports, the effect is great. Wow. Was your family a sports family before that? Were they into like baseball or football or any of those things? Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
That track was so much fun to just look at with
nuts.
the buildings next to it. I mean, the beach right there. I mean, I liked it more than Miami's track. I liked it. I mean, I don't know how Vegas is going to go, but it just seemed because Miami, it just kind of seemed like it was out in the middle of nowhere. Long Beach, you have these huge, tall buildings. Like, it felt like you were truly right in the heart of a city. It felt kind of like Monaco, which I've never been there, but it kind of had that. If I went there, I would assume it felt a little like this.
You're not wrong. I've been to Monaco for the not for the race. I went the week before the race to film something, and if you took the beach of Long Beach and just added more huge yachts and a few more tall buildings, I mean, you're right. Like, it runs along the water line, and the Long Beach track is really cool and really challenging technically. It's narrow. It's hard to pass on, but there was a lot of passing at IndyCar. It was impressive.
There was, and I noticed that you mentioned that your fiance said that those are the best. They really are the best drivers. There were so many more flags in the Porsche Cup races and the IMSA races, and then IndyCar hopped in, and there was just like a couple, and then it was a relatively clean race. That's how unbelievably precise these guys are.
Yeah, they're precise, and I think there's some wisdom as people, like, if you come up in Porsche Cup or something like that, maybe you graduate to an open wheel class, or if you're a gentleman driver in either one of them, I think the prices for your seat are much higher in open wheel. So you're also going, well, I can't be as aggressive or as reckless because the price is literally higher if I crash this thing. Plus, with the exposed wheels and components and aero playing such a huge factor, if you damage the car a little bit on an open wheel, I mean, your lap time's done. So
yeah. This popped in my head, and I don't know why, but we mentioned how Drive to Survive has really launched motorsports in general into a more of the public eye. Do you think motorsports are under fire because of EVs and fuel stuff and all these changes that people are trying to push for? I know we have Formula E. I know we have a lot of like electric classes. But do you think that we're ever going to see a day, you and like the three of us, we'll ever see a day where Formula One or IndyCar or NASCAR is like, hey, we can't do this anymore?
I mean, that's a tough question. My instinct is I don't think so, because there's enough work being done on the biofuels and e-fuel stuff. Like Porsche invested a bunch of money along with a bunch of petrol companies into these carbon neutral e-fuels. So I guess my hope would be, even if the entire world gets pushed to EVs, which we could get into the problem with that kind of changeover if we want to, because it's not as easy as everyone seems to think. Even if we get to that point, I would hope that we could take things like these biofuels or carbon neutral fuels and say, all right, these are just going to be used for racing. It can stay as a spectacle for everybody. You know, yes, it's a callback to, years gone by, but like NASCAR wouldn't be the same without the noise. F1, as they get quieter, it's not as exciting to watch. I mean, Formula E, if you've ever watched one of those races,
so weird.
It's really
so
weird. It's weird to see. So I hope I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I think that's a good thought, though, that it may just be these fuels are specifically for racing and stuff like that. But I mean, even listen to these F1 drivers like Lewis in that one clip where the V10 goes by, and he's like, I don't know why we changed that. It's the greatest sounding motor of all time, and it for sure is. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because they need the cars to be faster every year, but if they went back to NA motors, like maybe they'd be a little bit slower, but it might be more exciting to watch the racing if they changed aerohead stuff. But the sound would also be a lot better. So like they have to go faster every time, but a lot of people want them to go slower and change the racing and change the sound.
Yeah. Have you been to an F1 race before?
No, I have not.
And it was Long Beach. Have you been to IndyCar races before, or was that your first IndyCar race?
Oh, that was my first IndyCar race. Yeah, I've been to 24 Hours of Le Mans once, and a couple of IMSA races, but that was my first Indy race. Yeah.
What'd you think about it? How'd you like it?
Because
ultimately, this is definitely going to go to, from what you've heard from Formula One experiences. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I have some pretty hard thoughts on these.
Okay. I think for me, racing's tough because if you want to watch the race and actually see the racing, you're better off sitting at home watching it on streaming. I mean, the fact that you can, like, I signed up for, F1 streaming. It was $80 for the year, and I can literally change the camera to any driver I want during the race, which I don't really do. I just let the broadcasters handle that. But the fact that you can do that, and, there's 16 cameras around the track, like, they're going to show you the whole story, or as much as they can, in that quick succession, because they have to cover 20 drivers. Whereas on the ground in Long Beach, it's cool to be there, and it's cool that you can walk around and see like the whole paddock, and you can get really close to the cars with what seems like a pretty regular pass. Like, full disclosure, I had media passes, so I don't know what it's like for GA.
I snuck in, so I don't either.
So, yeah. But what you don't see there is, like, there's all these memes going around for F1. There's like 15 different passes you can get, and you can go here but not here, and some people are allowed to go into VIP but not paddock, not pit, et cetera, et cetera. So with IndyCar, I saw tons of people everywhere, everyone getting close to the cars, close to the teams, close to the drivers. So I really like that they make it accessible for a lot of people.
That was awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the difference is what in NASCAR is like football in that if they're running on an oval track, you can see the whole race. I mean, if you're at Daytona, it's a really big track, so you can't really see what's happening on the far end, but they're going to be back around you in 30 seconds. Whereas, Long Beach, any road course, you might be able to see one turn or one straightaway, and then the rest of the race is happening out of your view. So if there's a Jumbotron in front of you, you're watching the race on that. Otherwise, you're just waiting and going, well, let's see who's in front the next time they come around. And so I like the football and NASCAR because it's cool to immerse yourself in the crowd and like hear the cheers and hear the sound and everything. And especially football, you get the like tribal rivalries happening of us versus them, which you don't really have in racing. But if someone's wondering, like, do I need to spend all the money I have in the world to go to every race? Like, no, just go to one, get close to the cars and drivers once, and then save your money and watch it at home.
There you have it, everyone. I'm telling you. I told that to a fan that saw me in Miami, and it was her first race, and I told her that I was not going on Sunday. I went on Saturday, wanted to walk the track. I wanted to see some of the Porsche Cup stuff and the cars up close again, because that you feel it once. But I watched the race at the casino, at Hard Rock Casino. I was in Miami, and I didn't even go to the actual race because I'm like, this is going to suck. It's so much walking. It's so hot. There's 300,000 people there. It's like, okay, that was dope, but if you're not in front of a TV, you got nothing.
Yeah, I think if you have a lot of money, I mean, if someone has a lot of money and they want to buy tickets and go every week or whatever, great. Enjoy your time. It's just because it's such an expensive thing to go to. I mean, the tickets in Vegas start at $2,000, is what I heard.
Dude,
so all right,
insane.
That's a certain tax bracket. Yeah. I mean, if you want to watch the race, if you want to be part of the party, I guess you go to the thing and you say you went to the thing. But if you want to see the racing, you just can't beat what's on television now or what's on streaming.
Yeah. The Americanization of this is something that's been interesting to watch over these past few years as Drive to Survive has brought a bunch of these fans in, seeing how America has handled this new excitement around the race. Miami added, Vegas added. We now have 3 Grand Prix in our country, and every other country gets one. Italy for sure, but it's kind of crazy that we've taken it over like that, and that's my biggest complaint is how unattainable everything is, how expensive everything is, especially when there's other racing that I feel like is just as enjoyable or can be as enjoyable. How do you feel about a $2,000 ticket price in Vegas, and then Miami trying to charge $800, and then the week of realizing we have a bunch of tickets left, and we're going to email everyone and say, hey, you want tickets for cheap now? I don't know if you knew that they did that. They reached out to previous attendees and said, hey, we have some tickets. Would you like to have discounted ticket prices?
Well, I mean, this is just the market will kind of figure itself out, right? So it's their second race, and they overprice themselves, and they're spending a lot of money to build these things. But yeah, I mean, I think that $2,000 is too expensive. It's very Vegas, and I don't know how many tickets they're selling. They have people that analyze these things and figure out how much they think they can sell. I hope they don't sell all of them because I hope the price drops. Because if you want to get people into the race and into the sport, making it really inaccessible is not the way to do it. But if you're, a poor like me, as Tom Segura would say in a joking manner, you just you watch it on streaming, and then you save up a ton of money, or you make more money, and you can go to the race. But at $2,000, that's hard. That's a lot. That's a lot for something that's going to be 90 minutes long, and then you're going to leave, and you're not going to get these different services. It's a lot of money.
There's no roof over your head for that $2,000 either. There's no food in your belly. There's no drinks involved. It's just $2,000 and then $38 a beer after that. It just.
No, that's a lot. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How much were tickets there?
And did you have special access to? Were you in a paddock or a cabana? Okay. Oh, cool.
Oh. Yeah. Oh. And that says something. Like, because I'm not a Vegas person, but if you are a Vegas person and you like cars and racing, but you're still, pulling back from it, it just seems like it's overpriced. But they might learn that. We'll see.
This is where I show up with no tickets in hand, no place to stay, and I'm like, I'm just gonna figure it out. It's gonna be fine. We always do.
I like that attitude, man. I've done a lot of things that way. Things have worked out. I lost a sailboat once on a trip. It floated away and was like, it'll be okay. We'll figure it out. We found it. It was fine.
Yes. Okay. How does that happen? Were you fishing? Were you floating and a storm came in? What happened there?
No. The quick version, because we've talked about this on the podcast, but Matt, myself, and two of our other smoking tire people, Tom and Thad, we all rented a sailboat in Thailand for a week because Matt has a captain's license, so we could take a boat out. And it is the greatest way to travel a tropical place we've ever, it is the best thing to do. So for one of our last nights, we parked at this party island and we dropped the anchor. We didn't drop enough.
No.
We didn't drop enough anchor. The tide changed, and so we're on the island and the winds kick up, and we watch the tide go out a lot. And I'm like, what was water is now beach. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. We can run around where there was just water. Isn't this amazing? We didn't think of what that would mean on the other side of the island. And then so 3 o'clock in the morning, we're all wasted. We get in our little dinghy and we start going out towards where our boat was. And the dinghy motor dies. So now we're rowing. And Matt's going, I don't see the boat. And we're like, no, it'll be there. And he's like, I don't see, he's the most sober and the most responsible one.
And his name is probably on the boat.
His name is
on
the boat. And also on the boat, all of our passports, laptops, camera gear.
Nice.
And the boat is straight up gone. Gone. I mean, so we go back in, we find a police station. I use Google Translate on my phone to ask the police officer if they tow boats. We thought maybe we parked in the wrong place and we got towed. And I swear on my life that I say these things, and he takes out a piece of paper and he starts doing something, and I look and he draws a picture of a sailboat. This guy could not have cared less about a bunch of Americans that are missing anything. And then we turn around, and I think Matt looked off into the darkness. There was a light way out in the ocean next to nothing else. He's like, why is there a light there? He's like, I bet that's it. And he found some fishermen, woke them up. They drove out to this light, and me and Thaddeus stayed on the beach because we were on timeout. and we just watched this light suddenly move back to where it had originally been, and we took the dinghy and met them. And sure enough, our boat had gotten pulled out to sea when the tide changed. The anchor had gotten stuck on a rock. They towed us back in and tied the boat up to the fishing boat, and then we slept safely. And it was a very quiet morning as a group because we were all so shook by what had just happened and how wrong it could have gone. But what I'm saying, Brent, is I feel you on the it'll work out, because the whole time I was like, it'll work out.
I don't know when, but it's going to. It's going to be fine.
Yeah,
we have no choice.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Now, are you going to try to press into using your press credentials and connections to go see Formula One stuff and to try and go experience that, or is that just too far unaffiliated, I guess, with what we're doing with what you're doing at Smoke and Tire?
No, I mean, I would like to go to a race, and I would like to, get close to the cars and talk to the people that build and work on the cars. I mean, I see some of my colleagues get to do that. I know there are very few spots. There's not many teams that bring in media, and I totally understand why. So I think it'll happen one day. It'll work out. But I'm not someone who's going to pester the different race teams and be like, "Hey, I'm so and so from so and so. Can I come on the thing?" Like, sometimes it just happens, and I'm fine with that.
Wait to get the invite.
Yeah, I should have been. Got my Mercedes Formula One team shirt on. Rocking.
It's like Jeff wearing his McLaren shirts. It's like, this is it. I rep it because I love it, but it hurts my heart to rep it right now.
Well, they double as like a hunting sweater because they're orange, so it's like, I get it, Yeah. I kind of root for everyone, but that's hard. Like, that's what Drive to Survive did, is it makes you care about pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
So you're like, ooh, I want them all to win, but they can't. So I forget, a friend of mine gave me this Mercedes t-shirt. I didn't buy it, but like, I'm a huge fan of Lewis because I like him as a person. I think he has excellent character, and I really like what he's done with his platform in terms of talking about human rights issues and everything else. Whereas a lot of athletes or famous people wait until they retire to do it because then there's no stakes and they can't get fired. And he's like, I think he understands how important he is to his fans, but also to Mercedes. And it's great. He's like, he'll put it on the line. You're not going to fire me, and I'm going to say these things. So huge fan of his. Yeah.
Right.
True. But it's ballsy. In a classy way, yeah. Because Drive to Survive cut that whole part out about the rocket attacks last year.
Oh, yeah, they did. How convenient. Yeah. I noticed that.
So, but I also really like the underdog drivers, the people that are trying to make their way up, or like Lando Norris. And I like Charles Leclerc because he's very good, and I like Ferrari. I mean, I kind of want everyone to do well. It's hard to root for Max because he doesn't seem like...
He seems like he's an asshole.
He seems like he's an asshole. He's not portrayed well, and he doesn't do interviews and stuff, but it's okay because he spent his entire life focusing on learning to do one thing, and he's very fucking good at it. Like, he is an amazing driver in an amazing car, and that's his job. He didn't study to be funny or to be engaging or whatever. Like, a lot of the other drivers just happen to be that way, but he's in front. So
yeah. By half a minute.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's bananas to see how fast that car is. I keep saying they're cheating, and I can't figure out how, but they're so fast. They're so fast. And Fernando is a great driver, and they pretty much stole Red Bull's design, and they've got Mercedes motor, and they're showing that it's a great car. And I'm like, I just don't understand how they could be so much faster than everybody. Checo was 20 in front of Alonso, and it's like, like they finished, and you're like, okay, let's wait. They're coming. Hang on.
I know, man. It's hard. So I looked up, some stats for this thing, and like, do you know how good a constructor Adrian Newey is, or how good an engineer he is? So,
not specifically, but yes, we do.
So the first car he designed for F1, like by himself, was in 1988. 4 years later, he designed a car that won the championship, and then he won 3 in a row, then a year off, then another 3 in a row.
Jesus.
Then like a few years off, and then Red Bull, they went 4 in a row, and now they're kind of back again. Like, he is one of the greatest minds to ever design race cars.
Yeah.
And if you put that kind of brain, and I'm sure his team is also very brilliant, because a lot of them went to Aston Martin.
Yep.
It wasn't just like one person. It was actually a lot of people. So you have his mind who will hire people that have, I think, a similar talent and interest. You know, it's like if someone that intelligent is doing the hiring, they're going to choose great people. And then you put a big budget behind it, and it's really hard to beat that. Yeah. Look, man, Pokeballs are expensive. Yeah.
Helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they have a third, like feeding team now. You know, it's like they have Red Bull, AlphaTauri, and Aston Martin.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's fun watching Fernando just dunk on fools. It's
so much fun.
Given his age and everything, he's like, no, I'm not done.
He looks like he's having a blast
Yeah.
right now. I mean, he looks like he's having so much fun being back towards the top. I mean, if you discount Red Bull, he is the top. He's the most fun to watch, and he's just dominating everyone. And he's 42, 43 years old.
Yeah, I think he's
43. The oldest one on the grid. It's great. Yeah. Now, so that brings me to something that I did want to ask you. So considering that Red Bull is dominating so hard, and throughout the past, at least I think last 4 years or so, 5 years, Merck has been just obliterating everyone. And they change their the biggest, I think, complaint that people give is that, hey, this is boring to watch now because someone's just dominating. And then they change regulations to try and make racing and competition closer and closer. What are your thoughts on them squeezing these teams to try and get competition closer, almost at the sacrifice of the heart and soul of what Formula One was developed for, or came about for? It came about for innovation. It came about for this, like, who can build the best car with these specs or with these requirements, not with everyone's got the same one of two motors. Everyone's got the same aero kit. Everyone's got the same floor. It's, hey, just build it within these specifications and see who's the best. Do you think that the FIA should continue to try and get competition closer at the sacrifice of that growth in technology? I don't know if I asked that question as well as I had it in my head.
You did. It's a complicated question. I feel like my answer is going to be kind of down the middle, but I think I don't want them to go full spec series because the racing in IndyCar is really good right now. I mean, really good. Who's getting first, second, third, and everything else is changing up a lot. Like it is really exciting to watch. But I agree with you that F1 is cool because it's, let's see who can develop an interesting solution to this problem. Instead of, here's your chassis, here's your engine, you can tweak your suspension and your aerodynamics a little bit, but I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of interest that comes from that. But I think if you take the constraints off, then you have an arms race of who can have the biggest catering budget, and the cars would get either too dangerous or one would just win for 10 years straight. So I think you do have to have those constraints. You got to give people a little bit of some boundaries, and then see what they'll do within those boundaries. So creative within the restrictions. I just think it's a challenging job. I think it's hard.
Yeah. We're going to be the best at selling ads ever. So exciting, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And 10th and 11th, for that last point, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm glad that I mean, I'm curious to see what's going to happen in 26 when they change the engine regulations. I'm very excited to see Ford, like an American motor company, coming into the sport as well with Ford and Red Bull.
And Cadillac's trying to get a team with Andretti,
yes,
right? That's a whole thing.
Yeah, with Andretti, and I think Porsche is still trying to get in as well. And I mean, I think it'd be cool to have 11 teams on the grid. I mean, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
It's this excitement that you were talking about. It's like it's different now. It wasn't like it was last year. It's like, every car always has more horsepower, like you always say on the show. They always need to be better each year. An 11th team would be freaking incredible. With Brad Pitt. Don't.
You just want more McLarens. I think I would love to see them. Like if I had a crystal, or not a crystal ball, like magic wand, it would be take the hybrid part out of it and also take some aero out of it, so that the cars, and then put NA motors back in there a bit. So like if the cars moved a little bit more, and the racing was a little bit less of a technology race, and like right now it's an aero race. Like aero is important in F1, but it's just now it's everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's this just wind tunnel testing and development, and like who's got the pen, and maybe if they took a little aero out of the cars, the racing would be more exciting to watch, even if the speeds were lower and the times were a little bit slower.
Right.
Ooh. Probably any car. Probably any car would be any port in a storm if you're in a Fusion. No, I mean it's a sedan. That is a whatever sedan. But I have taken some comfortable trips in those cars. Like I'm just being a jerk.
Jeff's taken a lot of comfortable trips in his 2011 Ford Fusion too.
Yeah, it's a car. It's not exciting, but it's a car, and if that's what you need, great. Do you want to get something that will replace the sedan? Do you want another sedan, or do you want a fun thing? All right.
It pains me how anti-car guy he is for loving Formula One as much as he does. It hurts my feelings. I mean, I have two V8 swapped BMWs, and I'm like, I want a third one. I want to swap a Porsche with one of these.
Brent's my guy. Okay, yeah, then you should keep your Fusion, and when it dies, get an Accord, get a V6 Accord, and you'll drive it for 15 years probably, and that's fine.
True.
That's what
you'll give it to your daughter when she's ready to learn how to drive. Yeah.
Yeah. For real. Yeah.
How do you think Ford's going to do in Formula One? I know their history is phenomenal in Formula One. They've got the most winning motor ever. It seems like from they won, I think 4 back-to-back. One year they had the top 4 constructors were all Ford motors. I look at Cadillac's motors and what they're doing with these IMSA races with these prototypes, and I'm like, well, that's where the future of F1 is going, I think. And I think because I think they're pushing more and more towards hybrid technology anyway. And that Cadillac hybrid motor it's fun to listen to, how quiet it is at launch and how loud it gets when that petrol kicks in. But how do you think Ford will do in Formula One? I mean, to me, they're very EV oriented now, and I feel like that's probably where these new regulations are going to change to officially in 26. But I don't like when I think of fast race cars. Unfortunately, I don't think of the Ford GT.
Well, I mean, you should, because the Chip
I should.
Ganassi team, they won 2 years in a row at IMSA.
Really, with the new Ford GT?
Yeah. Let me look it up, but I believe they won 2 years in a row, like the year after they debuted.
Because I didn't see any cars at Long Beach from Ford.
I don't know.
And now, granted, I will say this: I'm very new to IMSA as well, and I have fallen deeply in love with it, with how fun and the variety of cars on the track. It's crazy to see a Lambo and a Porsche and this prototype. It's just all in the same race. It's wild to me. But yeah, how do you think that they're going to do with that?
I think the victories were a few years ago. That's probably why we didn't see them. So I think that they ended the program. But this was 2018 at least. They won their 200th race with 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
24 hours of Daytona. I think it just depends on how much money they put into it and who's in charge of the program and how up to speed they are on F1 stuff. Like, it's so beyond my comprehension, obviously, or any of ours at this table, or even all of us combined. But it seems like you have to take someone from a racing program or someone from an F1 program and then bring them to your program, give them $100 million and be like, what would you do with these constraints, with this new rule book? So I think Ford has a great history in motorsports. They have a big name to kind of, they need to do themselves proud. And, Ford versus Ferrari, like, the movie was huge, and they went, look how awesome we are. And it's like, that's true. That was true back then. And they've had great racing on and off since then. So I think it will be quite a battle between, them and Cadillac and them and the rest of the world, because I don't know. I don't know what they'll do with it, but I think they will put as much behind it as they are allowed to, because they have some really big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and they have some deep pockets.
Yeah, exactly. They have money, and they have a reputation that they want to uphold. And, you put those two things together, you can have a really formidable team. But what's interesting about F1 is, like, Mercedes has a huge name. They have, 7-time champion, right? Lewis is 7?
Mm-hmm.
7?
8, but yeah.
8,
yeah.
fuck. Yeah, he's going for 9. Like, they have one of the best drivers ever. They have one of the
I mean, it is technically 7,
ever.
but I say it's 8 because I don't like Max Verstappen.
Right.
So it's technically 7.
So I was right, but I know what you're saying. I'm with you. And look, they can't put it together. Like, they just right now it's Red Bull. So who knows?
I would love to see Cadillac in there going up against Ford, and then going up against because it would be Ferrari and I think those are all the motor manufacturers. I don't think anybody else is using their own motor, because I think Honda might go to a customer motor though.
Oh.
In 26, because they're going to be out of Red Bull by then, and they've considered becoming a customer motor, like what Mercedes is, where you can buy the Honda motor, because I believe their contract is done in 26 with Red Bull.
So they're just going to be free agent engine supplier?
I believe so. They tried to get out of it in 21 completely, and then Red Bull bought their stake. They bought their IP for the motor, and then they kind of looped them back into it. So, but from what I understood, Honda was trying to get out of Formula One, and then they won all these races. And like, I don't know, I guess we should probably stay. We're going to sell some more lawnmowers because of this. I know it.
Well, and it kind of it undoes the blemishes that were created when they were running with McLaren, right? Was that 2019 when they had the great engine misstart of whatever?
Jeez, that was embarrassing to watch for them. Yeah. Dude, yeah. Well, Zach, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was great.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was really fun. It's nice talking.
Do you have any hopes for this season? Do you think it's just going to be Red Bull 1-2 all the way through? And do you think that Fernando has any possibility of getting, second or so in the Drivers' Championship? Because I think he's going to take third. I don't think there's much of a question for third.
No, I mean, I think Checo is really, really good. He's proven that. I mean, he's proven he's not just in a good car. So I think the fact that he's in a car that seems like it's slightly superior, it seems like there's a few engineers at Aston Martin that did have to delete a couple of files before they went over there so that the car is not, I mean, the fact that you said it was, 15 seconds between Alonso and Checo in the last race, that is a year in F1. I mean, you could read the rule book in that amount of time. So right. I think it looks like Alonso's going to get third. What I want to see, honestly, is I just hope that some of the other teams have as few breakdowns as possible, as few mechanicals as possible. Ferrari, I mean, they had problems earlier this year. Just getting to see everyone run what they brung and put their best foot forward, it would be great. And whatever shakes out from that in the midfield will be exciting to watch. It'll be a very exciting season of Drive to Survive. So I think that's what I'm hoping for. But unless there's some miracles that happen either in Ferrari's shed or Mercedes' shed over the year, it looks like Red Bull 1-2 with Fernando coming up third, just going like, holy shit, who would have thought?
Yeah, right. Why'd you leave Alpine? I think they got the stuff. I think they got the goods for next year. I love that interview now that we have hindsight on this. Do you think we'll ever see a fight between Max and Checo?
Yeah.
Because I kind of wonder if they're going to let them duke it out, because it seems like they intentionally have different strategies for both so they don't have to fight each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the team needs to put itself first. I mean, I really think if push came to shove, Max is still faster. I think he just, by however many tenths it would be, or even maybe hundredths, it doesn't matter. I think he just is. I think he's just the best on the field right now and in the best car. So whether or not the team would let them fight, I don't know. They have so many different political reasons to make those decisions.
Yeah. I mean, we saw in Miami just how fast Max was, going from ninth to second or
wild.
fifth in 5 laps. It was insane watching that, him just climb the ranks like that.
And Fernando called how many laps it would take for him to catch. He's like, probably 15, 17, and it was
it was 16 or something like that. Yeah, it was dead on. That dude has got such a good racing brain. It's insane how he can think and while he's still driving. I mean, that's 20 years of being in the cockpit like that. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, Zach, do you have anything you'd like to plug on the show for anyone to watch or listen to, or any of that, or anything coming up? And I forgot to ask you about stand-up comedy, because Smoking Tire says you were a stand-up comedian, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Have you done stand-up? Do you do stand-up?
I have done stand-up. I can't say I do stand-up because I don't do it often enough, because I am lazy and afraid. So I go in these phases every year where I start doing it a lot, and then I just go, oh, life gets in the way, and we could talk about it a different time. Watch The Smoking Tire. We do car reviews, put up a new one every week. It's usually Matt and myself, and we also do our podcast where we interview comedians, actors, engineers, journalists, drivers, just kind of a big mix of people who are into cars. So yeah.
The last video y'all had I'm not sure if it's the last one, but Tom Segura was on your show recently with his Porsche down in Austin. I feel like y'all got Tom into cars through your podcast. He might have been into it, but he never had the access, I feel like, that you guys have opened up to him.
That's true. He someone put him in touch with Matt. Oh, Joe Rogan put him in touch with Matt when he had a car question, and we found out that Tom owned a modified E63 AMG and a modded M2. And we're like, oh, this guy's cool. This guy, I mean, he had a 600 and something horsepower M2 done by a Bavarian workshop up in Calabasas. And then Matt invited him to come along with us. We were doing a McLaren review. Matt and I were reviewing a 650 or something like that. And we just said, all right, Tom, meet us at this random road at 7 o'clock in the morning. He brought his AMG, and we let him drive the McLaren for 20 minutes. And I remember he pulls back up and he rolls the window down, and he's like, I think I got the back wheels off the ground. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, I hit a bump at full throttle, and there's a little bit of wheel spin, so I think the back wheels got light. And I was like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. But Matt got him in touch with the PR folks at McLaren, and he did some car reviews and some stuff on his, I think, Instagram and YouTube channel, and and now like he's touring a lot, but bought some really cool Porsches and modified the hell out of them. And Bert bought him a race car with Matt's help. Like Matt basically found the race car Bert should buy for Tom for his birthday. And I mean, he's into it. Tom is really into driving and really into cars. So yeah, it's cool.
Did you ever go to that auto resort in Vegas? Or not Vegas? We were talking about the class that you were going to take for high performance driving,
Spring
and
Mountain.
it was at an auto resort, which made me laugh real hard that they called it an auto resort. Did you end up going to that?
They call it a country club, where it's Spring Mountain Motorsports Ranch, is like what it's called. But there's a lot of these private racetracks that are popping up around the country for, if you're wealthy and you don't like golf, here you go. Or you can like golf, but you need a place to drive your cars. So I'm signed up for a class in October, but I think I'm actually going to change the class I'm signed up for. They were going to put me at one level, and we spoke to their instructor, and they think they're going to move me to a different one. So I am 100% attending, because it's hard to find a good racing school these days, and they've been running a really good one for 14 years, I think, since like 09 or 08. So
yeah. What are you trying to get out of it?
I'm trying to level up my road racing ability. I have a good amount of experience on loose surface. I've done some rally schools, rally driving. I've done drift school like 4 times, and I really like that stuff. But what I don't have a lot of formal instruction with is, high G-load corners, braking from top speed as late as possible. Like, I don't really know how to figure that out and maximize my braking distance. And I understand trail braking.
Because your body says this is not correct. I need to be slowing down at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about about experience, totally.
Yeah, you have to break your brain and be like, I can stop. I can hit the brakes at 50 meters. It's gonna be okay. And yeah. I don't have that in my head yet either. That especially in that Z3, I feel like I'm gonna kick the ass out of that thing in a heartbeat if I'm on it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you probably will. It's short wheelbase and it's got a lot of torque. You got to be careful for sure. There's a big difference in how cars feel based on, weight balance, wheelbase, track width. Like, that stuff really, really matters. It really very important. If you drive a Charger and a Challenger, or like a new Camaro versus a Challenger, you can feel how much further forward the weight is. Or old Audis, when the engines were like literally hanging past the front axle.
Yep.
I mean, they steer weird. They feel weird at the limit. They feel strange, and you can really feel a difference. So part of the great thing about schools is if you can learn those dynamics in a safe environment, then you kind of know like how a good car should feel in a safe place. And then if you drive a car that is just oriented slightly differently, or maybe not tuned correctly, like you actually be able to almost hear it and sense it without hurting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that rules. I'm excited to hear how that goes. That might be saved for another episode, because I would like to know how that goes.
Sure, definitely.
Because that would be dope to hear. So, the Smoking Tire Podcast is where you can find them, and you can also follow them on their Instagram as well, which they always have some fun clips teasing their YouTube videos. It's the real Zack Klapman for your Instagram, and let's go. God, let's hope that these upgrades Mercedes is going to bring to Imola this week are worthwhile.
I hope so.
I really do. So, Zach, thanks for coming on. Jeff, as always, thanks for being here, buddy. Everybody, don't forget, wear your seatbelts, be safe, and we'll see you this coming week. All right. Love you all. Be safe, and goodbye.